hoop en vertrouwen.
Here we are a day after the elections to discuss the future we see democratic decision making. What a timely topic it is after such a day. It's going to be a very interesting talk. We're to talk about citizen assemblies, about self-governance, self-rule. From India, from the Netherlands, examples all over the place to discuss what do we need to actually make decision making more democratic.
En alles is verbonden.
Milind, if I ask you what's currently wrong with our ways of making decisions?
The way we take decisions is usually by majority vote. So when you do majority vote, there is implicit violence made against those who are in minority. In majority decision making, this injustice or violence is very much implicit into it. And that doesn't take into consideration what the other party is saying. It is quite possible that those who are opposing or those who are not in agreement might be saying something very true, very genuine, and that's something we must understand. We must factor that into our decision-making process.
Miriam, how's that for you?
Well, at this moment, of course, we had the elections last night, and I think it's more of a popularity contest instead of really about all these topics that are really a big problem. And I think a really big difference is also that it's all about debate in the current way. So it's really about what separates us on the things we don't agree on, instead of what is our common ground. What do we share? What do we think is important?
The interest of everyone should be at least on the table. And then from there, perhaps we can begin a kind of open conversation. And again, when we look at the history of privatizations, neoliberal politics around the privatization of market relations, then we miss that actually there are many people who are under the radar and who are not, whose interests are not considered. So for me, it's a matter of power relation, and how can we make these power relations visible so that we can keep these people or organizations or institutions accountable to us and also to each other.
Yeah.
When you're discussing in consensus making, how does compromising is that part of it, or is that really something else?
Well, I think the way you do a citizen assembly is like so totally different than in a debate in which you come to a compromise. Because we always start with the question, what do you think is important about this topic? And when you share the things you find important, you get all these different kind of perspectives before you make a decision. Sometimes you see someone who says, well, this is really not in my personal interest, but I understand why it is important for us as a society as a whole.
So you don't have to compromise. You have to actually put forth your point very strongly. And you must try to convince even another person saying that, look, what I am saying is right and I feel right. And so let me put it forward. So everybody puts it forward, and then out of that churning, consensus emerges. So consensus is by no means bulldozing anybody's decision, because then that would be majority decision making.
Let's create counter power. And how can we do this? That's why I'm interested in bottom-up organizing. And I see lots of potential there in the sense of, for instance, trade unions is a kind of resistance to capitalist relations, or community organizations who are not really into challenging the relations, but by nature they do things different and we can learn from them. And as long as these kind of democratic or economic innovations are picked up by institutional forms, then we see the transformation.
Miriam.
Well, first of all, if you get an invite for a citizen assembly, please
say yes.
Say yes. And if you're in a citizen assembly, please be critical.
Wat ik een mooi alternatief vind, is als je van person of interest naar shared interest gaat. Dus van polariserend naar juist verbindend. En dat is gewoon heel erg mooi, want dat creëert ook dat je dus samen ownership over een bepaald onderwerp krijgt.
You know, we need to continue these debates these dialogues, because that's what we learned today. We need to dialogue much more, listen to each other, and create the world that we really all envision.
My call to action would be really to get organized. If I am part of an organization as an employee, what kind of decisions are given? Or if I am part of a community garden, how can I be involved in decision-making processes? So these might be the beginning questions to acknowledge power relations, and beginning from there to get organized, to fight for your interests.
Steeds dichterbij. Alles is verbonden. Alles is verbonden en weet dan dat we samen veel sterker zijn. Alles is verbonden, laten we samen gaan staan en samen